Who can make the sun rise? Why won't anyone tell me?
I love that Simpsons bit. The Simpsons was such a good show. I don't know about the newest seasons, but
I mean, the newest seasons are good in their own right, because I'm actually like, I'm not a huge fan of The Simpsons, but it's definitely one of those shows that like you could turn your mind off to and maybe even have in the background. But then there'll be those golden nuggets where you're just like, oh shit, what's going on? And then you go back and pay attention. You're like, oh, all right. Oh, they've never taken The Simpsons down this road before. You get me?
yeah, you're right. It's too bad, Victor. We're not talking about The Simpsons today. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Cafe Talk.
Hi.
Maybe one day we'll talk about The Simpsons. But until then...
Maybe it could be the whole episode. Just be like Simpsons and their history and what we think about them and how they were and where are we? Are we the old types that were, the first season is better?
All right. Just that, remember season 12, episode 6, where, they do the parody of what's that fucking book called?
Which one?
Damn it! It's the Treehouse of Horror where they do the Edgar Allan Poe book where they hide the heart underneath the floorboards.
Oh, you're talking about the Telltale Heart?
There you go. I actually like that parody that they do. It's pretty good.
Which one? Wait, what did the Simpsons do in that parody? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. It's like one of the really like old episodes. It's like season 5 or something.
Jesus Christ. Fucking, and then there's that one person that's like, you know what, the Simpsons were better when they were in the Tracy Ullman show. That's the real Simpsons fans. Only they know how to appreciate them. And you're like, Tracy Ullman, bro, you weren't even born around that time.
Yeah. Freaking, my favorite Simpsons episode is the one where Lisa finds a civilization on a rotten tooth.
Bro, that was actually pretty good. I like that one.
That's a really good episode too.
You know, I really like those episodes where they fucking talk about the future of one of the characters, and it's like, like the one I know. Right? Like the one I could specifically think about is they go to like a fair, and Lisa goes into like the mystic tent. Like there's a crystal ball reader lady, and she's like, "Oh, I could see your future," and it just goes on this whole episode of like Lisa getting married and going to college, and the guy's rich, but then he turns out to be an asshole and cheats on her and all that stuff. And I was like, I love future Simpsons.
Yeah, you know what? Have you seen the one where they like do a parody of Boyhood?
Is it called like Bart Hood? Is it about Bart?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I've seen
Honestly,
it.
that's like one of my favorite Simpsons episodes. It's really good.
Wait, is Bart like still living with his parents when he's old? Or is that the one where he like gets married and has 2 kids, but then he's divorced?
It's that one. There is a future episode where like Bart is still living with his parents, and then Lisa, and he's like a musician or something.
Yeah.
And then Lisa's like president.
Yeah. Oh, and then he's able to get people out of trouble.
Yeah. But in Bart Hood, Lisa ends up marrying like Nelson.
Oh, Nelson.
Yeah, and then Nelson like has that bit where he looks really old because he like donated his pituitary gland or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But anyways, we're not talking about The Simpsons, Victor.
We're not talking about The Simpsons. Goes on a rant about fucking Simpsons episodes.
Right?
So what are we talking about today, Jolin?
So this might be a little touchy for some people, and it might be just the right fuel that others need. But we're talking about humanity's war against animals.
On all animals?
I mean, very specific animals, but yes, all animals.
I mean, there hasn't been a limit. You know, there hasn't been a specific animal. They're like, no, we can't go to war on them. Like the capybaras, we can't go to war on the capybaras. They're so fucking cute and nice and friendly. Like, why would you want to go into war with them?
Man, fuck them capybaras. They're just big ass rats.
Wow, they're more like rat dogs. Okay, it's like cat dog but with rats. It's awesome.
I don't know. I'm just not a fan of rats.
Okay, so what do you mean by war on animals, Jordan? Like, what wars have there been?
Yeah, so when I mean war on animals, it's like I'm talking about the tendency for people, mostly governments, to decide that, oh, this animal's too dangerous, or this animal's causing too much damage to one of our businesses, that they just go and indiscriminately kill them.
I was gonna say that it's most likely gonna have to do with money, isn't it?
For the most part.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it still has to deal with money, but like the most famous war on animals is the war on emus.
Yeah, in Australia.
Yeah.
The Great Emu War. What were the emus doing? Like, were they just fucking being assholes, or were they actually causing like livestock damage and stuff like that?
First of all, his name is Wallace, and he's an asshole.
He's an asshole.
His name's Wallace. He's an asshole.
Look at this daft. He's walking an ostrich. He's an emu. His name's Wallace. Are you searching it up?
Honestly, I think the whole I'm looking it up. I think the whole reason why they waged war on emus is because they just drank a lot of water and ate crops.
Ah, so they were just being assholes.
Yeah. They were fighting for resources against like cows and sheep and stuff.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, I mean, I know emus are like dangerous, but like, you know, what animal isn't dangerous in the right terms? Like, you know what I mean? But it's like emus are more just annoying and assholes. Like I don't really see emus attacking people to kill them. If anything, just to like maim them. You get me?
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, what type of asshole of nature actually doesn't want to kill you? It just wants to fucking hurt you, just cause you pain. It's like the mob boss of the of the animal kingdom. It's like, don't worry,
my God,
I'm not gonna kill you, but when I'm done with you, you're gonna wish you're dead.
Sorry, I just went down a rabbit hole.
Are you reading about the war?
No, apparently there's also this thing called Brumby shooting.
Brumby shooting?
Which is basically shooting feral horses. It happened in the 1800s.
What? That's a thing?
It was a thing. Because apparently feral horses happened in Australia. And I mean, Australia, yeah, they shouldn't have just never brought other animals
to Australia.
The Australian wildlife is fragile and sensitive. You think a koala can deal with a fucking cat?
Yeah, and yet everything in Australia wants to kill you.
Yeah.
See, actually, that brings up a question for myself, like that I've been thinking of. Are all those animals that you see on the internet, when you hear about Australia and how crazy the wildlife is, and also like the bugs and shit like that, are those like native to Australia, or are most of them like animals that were brought on by other countries to Australia and they were just left there?
No, I think they're native.
Yeah. So Australia is just...
Well, I mean...
fucked.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, animals that we think of as, like, being native or something to us, like rabbits and pigs and dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are not native in Australia.
Really?
Yeah, Australia didn't... I'm pretty sure Australia never had... Aside from dingoes, they never had, like, dogs and cats and horses and cows. Emus are native.
Yeah, I can actually see that, though. Like, even before we started, like, colonizing Australia, it's like...
Yeah.
I could really see those animals living there already, but I don't see cows and pigs and chickens surviving in fucking Australia with all the other dingoes and wildlife.
And the thylacine. The elusive thylacine.
The fuck is a thylacine?
It's the Tasmanian tiger.
That's what they called it?
Yeah, that's its scientific name, I think.
Thylacine.
Yeah, some say it's extinct. Others say there's some in the bush. We'll never know. But the Australian government has a reward for anyone who's able to capture a live thylacine.
What's the reward? How big is it?
I don't know, like a couple million.
Let's go to Australia, baby.
I know we literally have to like scourge all of that. So, anyways, all right, going back to the main topic.
Oh yes, Emu War.
Yeah. So it's difficult to choose where we're gonna start. So I'm gonna start with why I decided with this topic because
okay.
I don't know if we said it that I chose this topic.
Yes. No, we didn't say it, but yes.
So aside from me just being like a wannabe active conservationist, I do occasionally hear about things that go on with the environment and stuff like that because algorithms, newsletters, whatnot. And one of the most common one of the most recent things that have been brought to my attention is that Idaho is trying to pass a bill to kill most of its state's wolf population.
Yes, you told me about that.
But and this is very recent.
How much is most though?
Yeah, so this bill was proposed in April of 2021, so very, very recent. And the bill states that it wants to kill 90% of all of its wolf population, which is incredibly huge.
Yeah, that's a huge ass number.
I don't mean they have a lot of wolves. I mean the 90% is big. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And mostly, and this bill was brought to the Idaho state government's attention because ranchers and farmers and stuff were complaining that they're like destroying their farms, killing their livestock, scaring the sheep and stuff.
It sounds like history is repeating itself for some reason. Like maybe it sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it does. Victor, it's a good thing you bring it up. We should learn from the Australians because they themselves had a problem with dingoes. And we can learn a thing or two from them. But the reason why this bill is so important, aside from the fact that it's gonna kill 90% of gray wolves in Idaho, is that if this bill passes, it sets a precedent that other states can pass similar bills to kill other populations.
But it's like, God, man, that's like just the idea of thinning down a population of an animal by such a drastic amount. It's like, do people not, are they really just that ignorant? Are they really just trying very hard to like look the other way at the facts of how negatively it'll affect the environment and nature itself? It's insane.
It is insane, and I don't understand. Like, I mean, I don't understand why people have such a negative view on wolves when there's so much research and stuff saying that they're good for our ecosystems. But I do understand how people can just look the other way when it comes to money.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It always leads back to just getting paid for it.
Exactly. So when I was saying like, oh, this can set a precedent because gray wolf. So what I was going with it is that gray wolves are already on the endangered species list, right? But if a bill is able to pass that it can actually cull a herd of an endangered species, that means other states like Montana, like California, like North Carolina can pass similar bills to cull their gray wolves, their mountain lions, and their red wolves, which are all endangered in that order.
Jesus Christ. That's even worse than I thought.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, big time.
You give a man a cookie, next thing you know, he's going to want to kill all the gray wolves.
Yeah, because it's like, sure, they're not causing the extinction of that animal because they're only killing off a certain amount or like a great percentage of it in that state alone. Like, they're not pursuing the hunt or like the killing of those animals outside of their state. But even then, it's like, they're an endangered animal. Like, you should just preserve their fucking population No, God, and then money is the huge factor why they just think it's okay, and they don't take into account the repercussions of their actions. It's just a mess.
Yeah. So that's what's going on in the modern day. And my whole thing is like we have to look back at animals that we've gone to war with, and it's been shown that these animals actually do play a huge role in their ecosystems.
Yeah. So before we get into like the wars that you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
I would like to share the whole like Yellowstone repopulation of gray wolves, just to show
Go for it.
the positive, the positive effect that these specific animals could have. So back in 1980 something, I forgot. Sorry, let me double check that. So back in 1970, they realized that there was absolutely no population of gray wolves in Yellowstone National Park. And it took all the way until 1994 or 1995 for the United States government to relocate some Canadian gray wolves into the national park, just in hopes to like repopulate their species. And by doing so, they only released one pack of wolves into the national park, and the wolves were able to thin down giant population of deer that were causing, damage to the park itself. Like there were so many deer that they were eating all these plants and fruits, and before they were able to like fully grow and repopulate their own like spores and stuff like that, that most little animals like foxes, rabbits, and beavers weren't able to like live in those locations where the deer were. So most of them were just like leaving the location because the deer were just causing so much damage. When they dropped in the wolves, they actually were able to thin down the number of deer, or at least like contain the deer to specific areas, that all these like a great amount of the Yellowstone National Park started reviving with plants and flowers and trees themselves too. And that brought back like rabbits, foxes, beavers. And because like all these other animals were coming in, even like the great bald eagle started like coming back and repopulating and making nests and all this stuff. So it's like just one pack of wolves was able to change or cause such a huge change in the Yellowstone ecosystem that, it's marked down in history as like such a great idea. And like Yellowstone wouldn't be what it is today without that pack of gray wolves back in 1995.
Yeah.
So it's like, to hear that Idaho is trying to get rid of most of their gray wolves is just like, bro, like take a page out of Yellowstone. Like, remember what happened.
I know, and it's dumb too because there's proven ways to naturally counteract like wolf predation.
Yeah.
And most of those are like get a wolf dog, like a Great Pyrenees or a couple Great Pyrenees, or sorry, like a livestock guardian dog.
Yeah.
You get a couple of those, or even get some donkeys. Literally, donkeys will curb stomp wolves.
Oh, they do that?
Yeah, donkeys are extremely territorial, and they don't care like if it's a dog or a wolf. Like if it sees you as a threat, they will like curb stomp you.
Yo, that's cool. I did not know that about donkeys.
Donkeys are like OGs. You think they're just like some beast of burden? Like, nah, man. They are deadly enforcers. You get like a pack of donkeys, those wolves better be careful.
A pack of donkeys. Dude, honestly though, like, why does media give such a bad rap to donkeys when without donkeys, farmers wouldn't be able to carry their shit or like pull their like carts and fucking protect their livestock? Like, come on, donkeys are helpful.
I don't know, because there's so many like donkey alternatives. Like you can get a mule, you can get a horse, you can get an ox, but like donkeys are the OG, man.
Yeah, I mean you can't make a mule without a donkey and a horse, so there you go.
Yeah.
So now, just going back to the wars.
Yeah, so obviously not everyone knows that like countries have actually gone to war with
Yeah.
animals. Because I mean, like to the most extent, you just hear like the government advocate like, oh, maybe this season you should try deer hunting or hog hunting because like these populations are being left unchecked, and they cause destruction and havoc, especially like hogs. They're
Yeah.
oof. They cause like a lot of damage, like monetary damage, you know,
Oh,
because they
really?
just eat everything and they destroy ecosystems.
They're just like fucking rampaging through the forests of where they live.
Yeah, they're like literally little bulldozers that just destroy everything.
God damn.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty
get out
scary.
there and kill a hog. No, so I mean, I guess this is like a little bit of like a history lesson slash like story time, kind of. But something that I'm very passionate about is the whole preservation of dingoes in Australia.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess I'll just share a little bit of like the history of the war with dingoes. Back in like the 1800s or something, when when the outback was being changed to suit farmers and stimulate the Australian farming industry,
Yeah.
farmers had a big problem with dingoes, or so they thought. You know,
Kind of like with the wolves in Idaho right now.
exactly, because they would go out and they would just see like a dead sheep or something, and then the only large predator that Australia has is a dingo.
Yeah.
So it's a classic scapegoat. Like just put blame on this dog. It's causing all the problems, and as such, the Australian government built a fence to keep all the dingoes out.
Oh shit.
And this fence is gigantic. I'm gonna tell you how big it is. It is 3,488 miles long.
Holy god damn! I thought, whoa. All right. I holy shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, you think the California borders the big fence? Nah, freaking Donald Trump's fence got nothing on Australia's fence.
Oh my god. Donald Trump would like jizz himself if he saw that.
So I mean, this fence isn't only to keep dingoes out; it's also meant to keep feral dogs, rabbits, and cats out.
Okay. Nice. All right. That's good.
And it worked, but farmers still noticed that some dingoes were still, you know, killing their stuff, killing their livestock. So then the government just, you know, let people have a field day with killing dingoes. You know, they would incentivize them to get out there and shoot dingoes. And as such, you know, other species of animals, especially kangaroos,
Mm-hmm.
like blossom because they're no longer natural predators, and then there's just this huge thing that like the kangaroos would like mess everything up.
Of course.
And it's kind of sad too because like a lot of these dingoes were not even at fault. Like sure, they're the ones that did the killing and stuff, but what they learned is that the dingoes who actually did all the killings and like, you know, hunted these livestock were
Yeah.
one, dingoes who the elders in the pack were murdered, so the knowledge of not killing any livestock was never passed down to the younger members. So they would just see a sheep and think,
Oh.
"Oh, this is food." When an older dingo would tell them, "Nah, don't mess with the sheep because the farmer's gonna come and kill you."
Oh shit. Okay. Damn. That okay. That's layers of fucking reasons right there.
Yeah, and it's like all canines have similar like pack structures. They learn from their elders.
Yeah.
Even wolves, I think there's a study too that like wolf packs who have older wolves tend to prey on livestock less than wolves who like don't have any elders.
Ah, okay. Because they like you said, they pass down the knowledge of like these humans could mess us up, so just stay away from them. But if we don't bother them, they won't bother us.
Yeah, or they pass on the knowledge of like, oh, it's not worth it,
Yeah, exactly.
you know? So that's
Mm-hmm.
one case. And the other case is that dingoes who like would just indiscriminately kill livestock were actually hybrid dingoes. They were dingoes who mixed with dogs that people either released in the outback or had run away from home and got
Oh
accepted
shit!
into these dingo packs and created dingo hybrids.
Damn.
Yeah, so these hybrids have all the same attributes as dingoes. You know, they're lanky, they can survive in the outback, they have a killing instinct, but they have also the characteristics of dogs, which they're not scared of people, they're not scared of livestock, they're not scared of civilization.
Yeah.
So they don't have like a natural fear that wild animals have. So in a case when you have a hybrid dingo that sees just a flock of sheep, it'll just indiscriminately kill.
Jesus Christ, that's actually pretty scary with the whole hybrid dingoes.
Yeah. And I mean, they just look like dingoes.
Yeah, of course.
Especially like big dogs who get released in the outback, like a German Shepherd or something. Like, come on, you know?
Dude, that's insane. Holy shit. Humans kind of fucked themselves over right there by releasing, like, having their dogs run away or releasing dogs in the wild like that.
Exactly. So once they kind of discovered, like, oh, you know what, the dingo's not really like the as bad as they thought, there was like an initiative to bring natural dingo populations back, because aside from being hunted to near extinction, like the hybrid dingo thing kind of messed up the dingo population.
Mm-hmm.
So there are efforts to bring like pure dingo packs back, and what they've noticed is that when you have these dingo packs who are able to have like a social structure,
Yeah.
not as many sheep or cattle are killed. Other kinds of pests like rabbits and wild dogs and feral cats are actually
Mm-hmm.
being controlled because these dingoes like will hunt them and eat them. And other
Ah.
populations such as kangaroos and also other invasive species like camels and water buffaloes that don't belong in Australia, they've seen dingoes prey on these packs, so they're actually doing a service.
Ah, holy shit, okay.
So it just goes to show like everything in nature has its place, and there's like checks and balances, and if we mess that up, then we just messed up a whole ecosystem.
Exactly. And it's like you said, well, where it's like if the population is kept under control, like if it's too much, and you have to like thin it down just a bit just so that the balance is preserved, then that's fine. You know what I mean? It's like you incentivize to go killing them, hunting them, just so that like you trim it down a bit just so that things go back to normal. I would actually like encourage that. Like I'm all for it. But what Idaho's trying to do, where they're trying to kill like 90% of their population, it's like you could tell that's not really to preserve the balance and get things back to how they were. It's literally just for monetary gain so that their farms could fucking start growing more crops, or like their livestock could be sold and to butcheries and actually get money from them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty sad.
So before we started recording, you were actually telling me about the whole like bison hunting thing as well. Like now that we brought back like shooting for no reason.
That's true. Yeah, I mean the whole bison thing, like it's a good story to tell as well, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also politically fueled, and I don't know how accurate that is. Because
Oh,
some
okay.
people say like, oh no, like it was all in good sport and people were actually eating the bison meat or whatever. But then
Mm-hmm.
other people like myself are like, no, this is just it was a political scheme,
Yeah.
which is more believable. So like for some people in the United States who don't know, in ye olden days when we were colonizing the West,
Back in 1876.
something like that.
I'm just guessing like a number where like the Wild West was still a thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, partially. So back in those days, there used to be like these trains that would just run through the Great Plains, and people could just shoot bison off of these trains.
Yeah, it's just going by.
Yeah, and they wouldn't like stop the train and pick up the bison and use all the parts. No, they would just leave them there to rot
Yes.
because there was an incentive for the government to kill these bison. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time some people were like, oh, we're just teaching these animals a lesson to so that we can establish farmland and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
That was their
if you think
excuse.
about it, yeah, if you think about it, who was there in the Great Plains during that time? And it was the Native Americans.
Yeah.
And what is like a staple food source for the Native Americans? Bison.
Bison, of course.
Yeah, and not even a food source. It was just like a way of life. Like some tribes would like migrate with the bison as the seasons went, because like literally the bison would give them food, it would give them shelter, it would give them like everything they need.
Yep. And the government saw that and realized that if we want to take this land from these people, or at least like scare them off from the land that we want to build this civilization on, then we have to scare them away, or at least take away their only like resource, and that being the bison. They just went all out on the bison, and fucking, the Native Americans didn't know what to do. They were just like, okay, I guess we'll just fucking leave then. Which is exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, it's horrible because you just have these magnificent animals rotting in the field.
Yep.
It attracts disease, it attracts pests, it attracts like everything that's unwanted. And there are historical pictures of people who have like mountains of bison skulls that they're just sitting on, and it's like well into the millions of animals that they've killed.
Oh yeah. And didn't the bison get on like the endangered list at that time?
Yeah, I mean, for a time the bison were like on the endangered species list.
Yeah.
And as I said, like the bison were a way of life, or life giving to the Native Americans. And when you have no more bison, what do? You just submit and you live on a reservation because the government will give you food and shelter and stuff. But literally, it's just a way for them to, keep them in check.
Yeah, exactly.
At least in those days. Now, reservations are like sovereign land, and the Native Americans can do whatever they want on their own land.
Yeah.
But back in the day, like those reservations were just horrible, and just a way to keep the Native American population in check. And it's now we know that like the culling of bison was a great contributor to like the Great Dust Bowl that sparked the Great Depression.
Oh shit. My question is just, the Dust Bowl contributed to the Great Depression?
I think so, if I'm not mistaken, because it like if all these farms just suddenly like vanish because their farmland had turned to dust, the only way you can get work is if you move into the city. And then it just so happened that like the stock market crashed, so you just have like all these people who just started moving into the city with no work, and people in the city had no work, so then it's just no one had work.
Yeah. Okay, so it just made it worse, and just it was all horrible. It went to hell.
Yeah, luckily like farmers were able to go back because there was a chemist who discovered synthetic fertilizers, just like nitrates. That you can put in the dirt and it'll bring nutrients back. But before synthetic fertilizers, bison literally fertilized the Great Plains.
Yeah, naturally.
They ate the grass, they pissed and pooped. Sometimes they ate berries and tubers and stuff, and that would cause other berries and tubers to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then even to this day, there are farms like in Texas that have concrete evidence that if you let bison graze, even in these like abandoned farms, it'll bring nutrient back into the soil.
Yep.
So all these farms and stuff prior to the Great Depression and synthetic fertilizers, they had the bison to thank, but then they just shot them all.
Exactly. And then that just fucking ruined their own land and ecosystem. It just created the Great Dust Bowl.
Exactly.
God
so
damn.
There's a lesson to be learned, and it's just leave nature alone.
It's it's like history just keeps repeating itself, and we just don't learn from it, and it's horrible. And it's like, yeah. I know that's not the only area in which that's happening, but it's like if anything, it's just another great example of how like we just don't learn our lessons.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and then that brings us to present day with the whole wolves and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, we know that these animals, all animals essentially, play an ecological role in their environment. And, when you upset the balance, then, shit hits the fan.
There'll be hell to pay.
Though there is one story that I do want to bring up, which is like, it's an actual war against an animal, but this animal has been like unanimously accepted. Like we unanimously agree that if this animal no longer existed, we'd be fine.
Ooh, which one's that?
It's the mosquito.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because literally mosquitoes, as everyone knows, are these little parasitic insects that suck your blood.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of all just agree. And then, I mean, we all just agreed that, like, if there were no more mosquitoes, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So when the U.S. was colonizing Panama or Costa Rica, a lot of the GIs and stuff started getting like dengue and hay fever and a lot of these diseases that were associated with mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So what they did was they literally drained the wetlands to like deprive these mosquitoes of their nesting area.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, it actually did kill all the mosquitoes in Costa Rica.
Oh, damn.
And people were just like, yeah, it's great. There's no mosquitoes here.
Yeah. Did that have a negative impact?
I mean, the only negative thing that I can think of is like some population of fish no longer have food because they can't eat like the mosquito larvas or just they can't eat mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things that it can eat, like dragonflies, beetles, like any kind of larva, any kind of water insect.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's not all lost. Mosquitoes are gone from Costa Rica.
They like this whole time that you were talking about mosquitoes, it sounded like there was a huge like butt coming at the end where it was like,
oh no, there's no butt.
Oh, thank God. Then yes, hell yeah, mosquitoes would be. God, why do they even exist? Like, what's the benefit of mosquitoes?
I don't know. Maybe they do something like control other populations.
That's honestly like a legitimate question that I would love answered because I have not done the research myself. And
I think I looked it up, and like some scientists agree that mosquitoes just offer no ecological role aside from just being like part of the food chain.
So they're like the literal definition of a fucking pest.
Yeah, I mean they're pests, they're parasites.
God, that's annoying.
Yeah. So like I mean this is a couple years old or maybe like 10 years old. I have no idea. But there's like a Brazilian scientist who also was like, "Yo, mosquitoes, not the vibe.
They gotta go."
They got to go." So what they did is that they genetically modified male mosquitoes to be infertile.
Oh,
Or have they genetically modified these male mosquitoes to carry a gene that does something. I think it's like when the mosquitoes enter their adult phase or when they're in their larval phase, like the gene tells the cell to produce like hydrogen peroxide, or it's some kind of like time bomb that like murders them.
What?
It literally like kills them because like this gene activates something in the mosquito and it just kills it.
They genetically modified a mosquito to do that? Holy shit.
Yeah, so they genetically modified a bunch of male mosquitoes and they released them so that way they can go and mate and have babies and basically inoculate the wild mosquito population so that way these new like the scientific term is the F1 generation, which is like the children of these hybrids.
Yeah.
That the F1 generation would carry this self-destruct gene and essentially just kill the mosquito.
That is crazy. That's so dope.
And then they would just have to continuously grow these mosquitoes that have the self-destruct gene and continually release them until basically all the mosquitoes are dead.
What the hell? Wait, so, but if they die by the time they get their, like, adult phase, how would they spread the gene to other mosquitoes?
I don't think they die when they, like, it's something to do with, like, it's a weird, like, genetic time, like, a genetic clock that does. I'll just look it up. Hold on.
Or the way I'm thinking about it is more just, like, they self-destruct, so therefore with enough time passing by, all generations of mosquitoes will just die off. Because like the generation before the F1 generation, they would just die off at like old age, and the F1 generation just self-destructs, so there's no fucking mosquitoes at all anymore. Is that correct to assume?
I think so. Oh, that's cool. They use CRISPR technology. I worked with CRISPRs.
You have?
Yeah, when I was a summer intern at UCLA.
Oh, damn, look at that, Jolin. You can fucking modify mosquitoes.
I can't take all the work. I can't take all the credit because my sister worked at UCLA at the time, so she was just like, "You're not doing anything with your summers. Just come with me to lab."
Damn, so you can actually write that on your resume though. Like that's experience.
Yeah,
that
I can. I have.
Yeah, nice. Holy shit. I got genetic modification experience.
No, I just did a bunch of like PCR, which is like very basic lab work. So I can just say I worked as a lab tech for the summer.
Jolin, they don't have to know that. You could just fucking lie on your resume, you'll get the job.
Right?
Don't do that. Don't listen to me. We do not condone that actions in Jumblhoj here.
Oh, so the mosquitoes. Okay, so the way that this mutation works is that it is a self-destruct. It's not a self-destruct gene. It's a self-limiting gene.
Oh, okay.
Basically, what it does is that when a mutated mosquito mates with another mosquito, their offspring has like a limited genetic clock that it just won't let that offspring reach adulthood.
Oh, okay. So it's not.
So if it doesn't reach adulthood, it won't mate.
Yeah, gotcha.
But the modified mosquito can still mate with other mosquitoes and produce offspring that have this limiting gene, so their offspring won't be able to mate anymore.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Did it actually work? Like, did the population of mosquitoes like go way down after the scientists did it?
I don't know. I have to look. I have to look into the story more because it's still ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're still doing it, but it's kind of hard to tell since insects populations are like in the millions.
Oh yeah,
or tens of millions.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to just say like, oh, I think there's there's like 10% less, but 10% is just like there's still fucking 20 million mosquitoes out there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so many.
Yeah, and I mean the driving point of like killing off mosquitoes is just because they pass on so many diseases like malaria, sickle cell, dengue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in everyone's benefit if we just kill mosquitoes.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, if like we somehow manage to just at least bring mosquitoes down to like the endangered species list, and then imagine if the fucking mosquitoes were actually like the thing that was supporting us all, like kind of like the whole bumblebee thing where everyone was freaking out, where it's like, oh, bumblebees actually help, pollinate plants. So therefore, if we lose the bumblebees, we lose pollination, we lose plants, we lose food, we lose ourselves, and then we fucking all just go extinct and the whole planet dies just from losing bumblebees. Yeah. But what if this whole time it wasn't bumblebees, but it was mosquitoes that were actually thinning down the population of many species out there, like humans and animals, that's what kept the planet like alive. If not, we would have like killed ourselves a long time ago.
Nah, I mean it's plausible, but I highly doubt it. Just because of the parasitic nature of mosquitoes, like bumblebees, bees in general, like they're just doing the thing, They eat some nectar, they throw up, make honey.
They throw up. Oh yeah.
They wiggle around a little. Dude, you know what's crazy?
What?
There was actually like a scientific paper that has concluded that bees can tell time.
Oh yes, I know which one you're talking about. I recently saw it too.
It's so crazy. So basically what this paper says is that they believe that bees like can tell time because they've noticed that like so in the experiment they placed like sugar water or a very high value treat for the bees. It can be like a flower that they love or like sugar water, honey, etc., right?
Yeah.
It's just a very high targeted high value treat. And when one bee found out where it was, they would go back to the hive and communicate it with the other bees, and they would do this little dance, and the dance basically signified like how far away the the flower is based on like how many times the bee circled and how many wiggles of its tail of its like thorax that it would produce.
Yeah.
And once like more bees started to show up at this high value treat, then the scientists like move the bees to another area, or like they started to add other things, like they would move it, they would cover it, they would like do a bunch of things to it. And the same thing, like the amount of wiggles and the amount of laps that the bees would dance to would signify not only direction but how far away or when they last remembered this high value treat was at.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, maybe they're using like the magnetic location or the positioning of the sun. And it basically got to the point where they were doing it in an abandoned salt mine. So there's no light, like it's a totally controlled zone. There's no like air currents or positioning of the sun or anything.
Yeah.
And people were still like, I don't know, maybe. It wasn't until like they flew bees from France to the US that they discovered that the bees were jet lagged. So they have a perception of time.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is crazy.
So I'm sorry, like I don't know if the audience listening got confused like I did right now, but you were describing the distance of the treat this entire time. Did you mean the time the treat was put out for them?
Well, the scientists correlated that the bees didn't tell them like, oh, it's X feet or meters away. They would tell that like the amount of wiggles correlate to like how many minutes away the treat was.
Oh, okay. Cause
sorry, I should have said that.
Yeah, no, cause that makes more sense. Then that perfectly makes sense to like everything else you said. Cause I read the same article and I saw like a TikTok or video of it. But they didn't specify about the wiggles or the feet or yards or like the time it took them to get to the treat. They just mentioned how like scientists put out a treat specifically like at 3 p.m. every single day, so that way the bees would actually come to that treat at the exact same time. But then they would like,
oh, there was that too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, sorry. I totally forgot about that there was like a time, because there was a different part of the experiment that they were trying to see how if bees can still have a perception of time like we do, where there's no like where there's like an ambiguous beginning and ambiguous end.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how we define what a minute is.
Yeah.
So when they did that and they just placed like a random tree at a length, the bee knew how long it took them to fly to that tree, and when it flew back, it would wiggle its butt or its abdomen that long to tell the bees this is how long you have to fly to get there.
Oh, okay. Dang.
Which is a way of telling time.
Exactly.
So I'm just like, freaking bees, man. They're like the oddball of science. Like, they shouldn't fly. They shouldn't be able to tell time.
Yup.
They shouldn't have a social structure. And it's just like, man, bees are amazing.
And they have a hive mind. So it's like,
yeah.
Whoa. And then also
they don't care about the individual. They care about the hive.
Exactly. It's like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And also the way they fucking like suffocate their opponents when they're getting attacked. I fucking love that fact. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
They're just like, if a wasp comes in to kill like one of their soldiers, like a bunch of bees just like engulf their face and they're just like suffocate the enemy until it dies, and then they just eat it.
Oh, they don't actually suffocate them. They like cook them.
Oh, by like vibrating their bodies onto theirs?
Yeah, like bees will gang up on a wasp and start vibrating, and the vibrations like will transfer into heat. And I guess bees have a better heat tolerance than wasps. Maybe it has to deal with size or something. I don't know. Yeah. But they'll just like cook the wasp.
Oh, that's so much better.
Like, dude, bees are like metal as fuck.
Holy shit, bees are so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hope anyone who's listening, like, learn about the ecological importance of some animals, or they just kind of enjoyed us, telling you some history stories.
Yeah, just look. If you found any of these history facts like interesting, go do your own research. You might learn some facts that we didn't even mention, and entertain yourself.
Exactly, because we talked about the Emu War in the beginning, but like we don't know enough about the Emu War to actually say anything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of efforts in Australia to curb invasive species. There's a lot of efforts in the U.S. to curb invasive species as well.
Oh yeah, big time.
So yeah, those are fun reads, but definitely, if anyone who can weigh in on this political issue about Idaho killing wolves, if you can, please vote against it, because that's pretty bad. I know we're not supposed to give political advice, but this is more of like an ecological and conservationist thing.
Yeah, big time. I agree.
And yeah, I mean, I guess that's like a natural conclusion to the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much for listening and joining us.
Yeah, if you liked anything we said or heard, give us a thumbs up, maybe subscribe. You can always comment down below any kind of topics that you want us to talk about. We read all the comments.
Yes, we do.
Or if you're listening on Spotify or Anchor, email us, do that. Or hit us up on Instagram at Jumblhoj. Check the DMs.
Yeah, slide into our DMs, that's right.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Stay beautiful.